पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ, पंडित भाया न कोई। ढाया कर प्रेम के जो पढ़े, सो पंडित होए कबीरा, पढ़े सो पंडित होए। पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ, पंडित भाया न कोई। ढाया कर प्रेम के जो पढ़े, सो पंडित होए कबीरा, पढ़े सो पंडित होए। Now the verse is titled "The Glory of Love." It's interesting, the coinage of the title and the message conveyed. He says, reading books and scriptures, everyone died. Pothi pad pad jagamua, pandit bayana koi. Nobody has become wise just by merely reading the books and scriptures. And what we are also spending time is reading the scriptures. So we got to be careful. Who reads 2.5 words of love? Dhaya kar prem ka. Padhe so pandit hoye. He only becomes wise who reads 2.5 words of love. Now, what those 2.5 words? I had to scratch my head when I first came across this mantra. What is he trying to say here? You know. So he just puts it so innocuously. Says just 2.5 words you read, then you become wise. All the scriptures are of no use. Now, anybody wants to guess what that is? What is this 2.5 words he's talking about? Have any one of you heard this mantra before? From whom? Not my other recordings. Gayatri Ma. Yes, please.
Not from your recording, Guruji, from elsewhere, like, you know.
Yeah, you can you stop sharing, please, this one? Yeah. Yes, Ma. What is your view on this 2.5 words?
How much our literatures and other things you have read, it is of no use if you don't have that love. Love 2.5, it's maybe that love, what you spell is 2.5 words, I felt.
But love itself is 2.5.
No, it's the words.
Where is 2.5 in that word love?
La, va, it comes.
Aha. Your imagination is to be admired.
Like prem in it is given, you know, so pa, ra, is given, so that is 2.5.
No, there are a lot of Sanskrit pandits here. We'll ask Asha Ma, none better than Asha Ma. Yes, Asha Ma, boliye.
हिंदी में प और र को जोड़ा हुआ है प्रेम, so that is love. 2.5 अक्षर, like सृष्टि, प्रभु, all these are 2.5 अक्षर.
Can you come again, please?
प और र को जोड़ा हुआ है प्रे, प्र.
Right.
So that's the 2.5 अक्षर. प्रेम के 2.5 अक्षर. Like प्रभु, P or P or R, Prabhu. Yes. That way there are many such words. Drishti, so Srishti.
So
मतलब है कि उसके अंदर का मतलब, you have to gauge the meaning of words, of I don't know what else.
Okay, that's the Sanskrit part, you know, which you rightly said, right, Ma? So it is so let's see, any other thoughts? Anybody else? Yes, Hirenji.
It's a half-cooked knowledge kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is meaning exactly. Dhai literary translation, I don't know. The ladies what explain about it, but it's meaning that we know a little bit of a thing and then we become, so it's a half-cooked knowledge kind of a thing. Is that what you are?
No. In fact, the first half of the verse, he's saying mere books and scriptures, by merely gathering information, like other day we spoke about intelligence versus intellect, the sense of value vis-a-vis sense of proportion. We spoke a couple of sessions ago. When you merely acquire information, you are an voracious reader, you're well read, you're well informed, you can even be a great orator, you speak well, you can mesmerize an audience, you can get them attentive to you because you have so much knowledge, so much of information. But that doesn't translate to being wise, he says. Right. Now, what that means that you are going into the length of study. So the first half of the verse talks of those intellectuals who go about merely entertaining their intellectual curiosity. They're just satisfying their curiosities. Jignasu, like in the Gita, the day we learned. All right. Now, the second half of the verse, he's giving a solution how to become wise. So first, he says how you cannot become wise. The second, he says how one could. So the attempt is to interpret what is this 2.5 words of love. You get it?
Okay, yeah.
All right, okay. Now, just to expand, in fact, in the, I would also, in fact, refer to what Tinkima said, 2.5, perhaps suggesting that it is, you can take it literally, means you don't have to have voluminous study to become wise. What you need, in fact, in the Bhagavad Bhajgovindam also, he says, Bhagavad Gita kinchita dhita. If he who has learned the Gita even a little, you don't have to kinchit, he says. Kinchit is very little, a little pinch. So that amount of knowledge, when it's approached rightly, can translate into wisdom. But you can have loads of knowledge and information, and yet you may not become wise. As they say, acquiring knowledge and no wisdom is like carrying gold on a mule's back. You put a sack of gold bars on a mule, it only becomes a burden and a load for the mule. It doesn't matter whether it's a bar of gold or a bar of brick. It doesn't help the mule, isn't it? It still has to carry the burden. So the knowledge becomes a burden if it is not become a part of it, it's not become wise. So not many understand that knowledge is just the means and the end is the wisdom. The wisdom is the end and the knowledge is just the means. So the process of interacting with knowledge, acquiring knowledge, is of no use if you get lost in it as an end in itself. It doesn't matter. I know many people who are interested in reading different commentaries of the same text. Why are you so caught up in different opinions of the same text? Oh, this Ramayana says this, that Ramayana says this, this Gita says that, that Gita says that. What is the point? Who says what, man? How has it helped you? How has it transformed you? I've come across people who are very, very knowledgeable, but they are grossly selfish. Grossly selfish. I ask, what is the point of all that knowledge if it can't cleanse the impurities of the mind? It's like the fangs and the poison of a snake. What's this? The symbolism behind Sriniji, the symbolism behind Lord Krishna dancing on the hood of that serpent. You remember? You know the context? What serpent is that?
But I can't remember the symbolism. I don't understand the symbolism. No. It's just that he dances on the evil or what was supposed to be scaring to the universe. That's all I remember it as.
See, the story is of this kids playing some game with a ball, and the ball falls into that lake, and he goes in and he retrieves, and he when he comes out, he's doing tandava. He's dancing on the hood of that snake, isn't it?
Yeah.
The name of that snake is Kaliya. Kaliya, Ramji. Okay, so Kaliya is the snake. Now, what does the lake symbolize? The lake symbolizes the mind. The snake symbolizes, what does the snake symbolize? The lake is the mind. The snake is?
Fear. Is it?
I'm sorry?
Fear?
Fear. The poisonous snake symbolizes the ego and the egocentric desires. The many hoods, the many wives, the many snakes symbolizes the ego and the other desires which cling on to your ego. So he conquered them. Dancing on the hood means he has conquered the ego, the egocentric desires, which pollute the mind, which pollute the lake. So what pollutes the mind is your ego and egocentric desires. So Lord Krishna dancing on the hood symbolizes you have conquered the ego and your selfishness and the various desires, that selfish desires that pollute the mind. So the mere knowledge doesn't help you to cleanse the mind of its impurities. Only when you have acquired wisdom does one cleanse the mind and its impurities. Now, through our study, what we have understood is ignorance manifests in 3 stages. Ignorance manifests in 3 stages. And the 3 stages are lack of information, lack of understanding, and lack of experience. First, you are not informed of the truths of life. You don't know what's the purpose of life. You need to be informed. So you need to go to a guru. You need to pick up the scriptures and address the first level of ignorance, which is lack of information. Once you're informed, then you need to understand how it has a role, how does it have a relevance into our lives. You need to understand the context and how you can integrate it to your life. That is the lack of understanding. And that lack of understanding is done through the process of reflection, which is a conscious reiteration of these ideas, which you do it by yourself. Shravana is you lend your ears to the guru. So the guru speaks, you listen. Manana is you do it yourself. It's a self-effort where you reflect on the ideas. When you gathered enough reflection, then you come to a state where you experience the truth. The lack of experience is taken care through nididhyasana or meditation. Now, what Kabirji is perhaps attempting when he says that you should get into only one become wise by the 2.5 words of love. Whoever reads 2.5 words of love, he only becomes wise. He's talking about the culmination of your spiritual sadhana, which is meditation. I said, I had to scratch my head to understand this. What is that dhai word, 2.5 words? And in meditation, what are you doing? You're chanting the mantra. Om. And what is Om? Is a half word. So the 2.5 words of love means when you practice meditation, which is preceded by manana reflection. So don't bypass information into meditation. When you do reflection of the knowledge, you will mature into a state where you become meditative. And only when you go through that phase of acquiring knowledge, reflecting on it, and contemplating and meditating, that is when you become wise. So the 2.5 words he's referring to the Om. I think so. Only person would know is Kabirji. So this is the most intelligent guess. I think so. I don't know whether it is right, but it is very difficult to understand. That's why you need to spend a lot of time to understand these great men, what they're saying. And why does he say it 2.5 words of love? The element of love, is absent when you, Hariji, where is the love absent? You only, Hariji, why are you so lost?
I didn't hear the last akshar.
G, is it? Okay, I'll call you.
Sure.
What's that? I'm missing something here.
No.
The question is, what's the question? He's got a talent of confusing, you know. What's the question? Gayatri, my question, huh?
When do you lack that 2 letters of word love?
2.5 has become 2 now, huh?
2.5, okay, 2.5.
Please, we'll retain 2.5 at least for this verse, man, this class. What was I asking?
When do you lack this love?
Not when. I said I think Padmanabhan is saying the element of love is absent. Where is the element of love absent?
I thought you asked when does there no love? When is love not there? Or what causes love not being there? I don't know. I don't want to confuse people, but I would have thought it is attachment.
No, I see. Let's not introduce any idea which is not in the context. We are not talking of attachment and love here in that sense. So when, see, we have explained the first half of the line where he says you read mere length of knowledge, it doesn't give you wisdom. You only have information. We understood the process required of effacing ignorance in 3 stages. And then we also spoke about the 2.5 words refers to the culmination of spiritual journey, which is meditation. Now, why he says words of love? Now, the question is, when the love is absent, what happens? That's the first line is where you are only caught up in the mere intellectualization. It is dry knowledge. Dry intellectualization doesn't give you wisdom. In fact, what dry intellectualization gives you is arrogance. When you have mere knowledge, you get arrogant. You become very proud, egoistic. Okay. Now, when it's clubbed with emotion or love or identification, there is an integration of your head and heart. That's what I was trying to get at. So when he says the 2.5 words of love, when he says is when there is an integration of your emotion with knowledge, then you get wisdom. Like you must feel what you speak. So there is an integration. Your intellect feels, sorry, intellect understands what the mind feels, and the mind feels what the intellect understands. So there is a integration of head and heart. So when you study, is your mind following what the intellect appreciates? That's the point I got to ask myself. When I appreciate these higher values, is my heart, does it feel for this knowledge? Does my heart feel for these higher values? But if your heart doesn't participate, if your mind doesn't fall in love with this higher values, mere knowledge will not make you wise. You get, are you all with me? Are you all able to follow? Anupji, are you following, Anupji?
Yes, Guruji, I can follow what you're saying. I think what you're saying is the internalizing the knowledge that you have learned. If you
Yes.
can, yeah.
So that internalization happens only when there is a wholehearted participation of your inner personality,
Mhm.
which is your intellect and the mind both embrace this practice.
I think that's where my confusion was. That's what I wrote to you about it. Thank you for
Yes.
clarifying.
Right. No, always a pleasure. But does it make sense in the context? Does it all fall in its place?
Yes, it does. I think I was just thinking intelligence versus intelligent person. The intelligent person is an actor, is more action oriented. So that's where I was getting confused. So you're saying intelligence is the knowledge, it's the external knowledge where it exists, whereas intellect is the one that can differentiate or use that knowledge.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And Anupji is referring to a clarification there was on a private note, so I had clarified, but the context of it, he actually spelled it out, So this is the actual difference, So mere reading gives intelligence, but once you have the intellect, you're able to cleanse the mind of its impurities. As Hariji just brought in the concept of attachment. So there are attachments, the insecurities, the selfishness, and the ego. The mind becomes cleansed. That is the test of wisdom. That is the purity of wisdom, is the mind becomes pure. So if the mind is still stained with the egoistic notion and selfishness and attachments, that is like light and darkness can't coexist, isn't it? Knowledge and ignorance cannot coexist. So if there is wisdom, there is no expression of ignorance in the form of this desire, selfishness, attachments. So the accent is in absorbing, digesting what you have learned, than mere acquiring of information from external sources. That is, the accent is shifted. He's trying to reiterate the accent should be on reflecting, then acquiring knowledge. I think the world has missed this point. Nobody out there, I tell you this, I'm very certain when I say this, nobody out there, a very, very minuscule percent of spiritual gurus emphasize on reflection, reflection, reflection. You would be tired of listening reflection from me. As long as you choose to associate, I will keep saying this. You will be tired and you will drop me, but I will not stop saying this, because your whole transformation depends on manana, not on mere lending your ears to the gurus. That is no use. You can lend your whole life, next 10 janmas you can, but it will not transform you unless until you put in that effort. Not many tell this, Ji. Ji, that's a point. Not many emphasize on this element of the spiritual path.
Could it be from the 2.5 words, what he is saying, could that be that whatever little you know, and if you apply it properly and use it properly, that's a lot more important than knowing a lot more and reading a lot more?
Absolutely, yes. That is what he's saying, you know, and as long as you live it. And when do you live it? Only when you so the missing link between knowing and living, what's the missing link?
The knowledge.
No. The missing link between knowledge and living
Is the implementation.
if you're already implementing, you're living it, isn't it?
Mhm.
What is the missing link between knowledge, which is being informed, vis-a-vis living, which is transformed? There is a link. That's the emphasis. That's the point we're making, and we have made it, in fact. So what connects these two elements is the right, in fact, when you started saying, you said internalization of this knowledge.
Mhm.
So that internalization happens through reflection. So a simple example can help to understand this concept. We eat healthy food to gain health, to gain vitality, to gain energy, isn't it? But
Mhm.
the mere food, when you consume, that doesn't give you vitality. When the food is absorbed by the system, and the system digests the food and circulates, that's when you get, when the food is absorbed and digested, that gives you stamina, energy, vitality. Food by itself doesn't give you. Let's say your system rejects the food, something is contaminated. Your system doesn't accept it. It gives you ill health, doesn't it? You could have a vomiting, diarrhea. You could have serious health issues. It knocks you off. Similarly, when the food knowledge is not accepted, it brings about more disparity. It gives you more problems than will guide you in life. Therefore, the missing link, we are saying, is reflection, 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 which is done in the early hours. You've got to do it every morning, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. You like it or not, that is the hour that bridges the gap between knowing and living. And that is exactly the process of your body trying to digest and absorb the food. Similarly, you are trying to reflect and absorb the ideas which belong to these great men. Now you're making it your own. And that process, if it's done, you become wise. If not, you may read and read and read all the scriptures, yet you will not become wise. It can't be. Once you read from that perspective, I believe this is what Kabirji is trying to convey. Okay, Ji. Right. Thank you. Yes, Setu Ji.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om, sir.
I just wanted to share in this contest, and the last verse you made a statement, who is immortal? So if we see our Indian Padma Awards last year, which was given recently, many of the recipients are unsung heroes who have saw a lot of issues, but they got into action out of compassion, and someone earning 150 rupees in Karnataka has created a lot of schools for underprivileged children. Same way, many of the Adivasi lady, she did a lot. So there are a lot of examples where they saw it, and out of compassion and love, they got into action and created history. And they have become, they will definitely become immortals, although they are with little means.
Correct, correct. Absolutely. Yes, yes. I'm glad somebody has an eyes to see such sacrifices, isn't it? Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yes, Ji. Perfect. Yeah, Tinkima. Tinkima, yes, are you there? Yes, ma.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute. That's why I couldn't speak. Hari Om Guruji. This concept in this stanza, the first line he's talking about the intellect and studying a lot. And in the second line, he's talking about prem, love. So this love, can it not mean, because devotion is surrender and love for the divine. You said earlier that love is for the self, and for same level and lower is love, and otherwise for the higher it is. So can that mean that even a little bit of love, seeing the self in others, so feeling that love for them and feeling the love for the divine is much higher than reading thousands of scriptural texts? That concept of love, I mean, how does that fit into this? That he's saying that even that little bit of love which you show, because you love that, you've understood, you've read it, you love the divine, but till you don't love the others, love human beings, something which is expressed in that Abu Ben Adam poem also, that I don't love God, but I love my fellow human beings. So that little bit of love that we feel for others is far exceeds however much intellectual knowledge we may have. Could it mean that? I don't know.
I also don't know. As I said, we are trying to interpret what Kabir ji is trying to say. So he's not, see, it's not trying to give the importance of love over knowledge. It's not a comparative point being made here. The point is, once you approach this knowledge in the right spirit, you get the best, you become wise. It's not saying one is superior to other. He's not trying to bring that element here. Therefore, the challenge was to interpret what those 2.5 words mean, what it is to mean that word love, which is to integrate the head and the heart, which is mentioning about the concept of reflection. So which is culminating in meditation. So that is the concept. He's not trying to talk that love is superior to mere study and knowledge or studies. That's not the point. No, we could get lost there. Okay, ma.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, Hariji.
Hari Om Guruji. In various occasions in different Upanishads and Gita, they have very clearly written, unless there is integration of head and heart, we cannot get saved. So the culmination is the integrity, that is the Shiva and Shakti, the Ardhanarishwara.
Yeah.
The emotion and
Intellectual.
intellect.
Yes. So the way interpreting it in the context is very important. Thinking about that's where it's important. So we are integrating the head and the heart. That's the concept. Okay.